Hello everybody, as usual, I hope you're doing great. Let's face it, if you clicked on this video it's because you're interested in finding your mission in life, your purpose. What is the greatest service that I can provide to humanity? That means then that you are in the spiritual path of self-development and of course seeking self-realization. And this is the key of what we're going to cover here, because in the Law of One we have an answer to this, and it so happens that it coincides with every other mystical teaching. So we're going to get into that. First, let me say that I covered this question just about 4 years ago in 2020 when I did session 15, which is where we're going to derive the question from. And things have changed, of course. I did give an answer at that point that is still relevant because it's about you manifesting the creator as it wants to be, but I want to deepen that interpretation a lot more here. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to read the question and answer, but I'm going to break it down into 3 parts, which is the different understandings that we can get out of this answer or this direction, this understanding, this practice that Ra is suggesting. And then I'm going to read something from Ramana Maharshi, the sage from India, the most renowned sage in India in the last century. And you can see the beautiful parallel that exists here in terms of what is the biggest service that we can provide. So let's start with the question from Don in the Law of One. And again, I'm using the website, which if you want to read this question, I will leave a link in the description so you can go check it out and see the context of the session. But this question is a standalone one, if I can say that. So Don says, what is the greatest service that our population on this planet could perform individually? Very important, individually, right? What is the greatest service that our population, that we can provide? And Ra says, there is but one service. What is this one service? They say the law is one. The offering of self to Creator is the greatest service. Let's pause there. The offering of self to Creator is the greatest service. We're going to get into that. They continue and say the unity, the fountainhead, referring to the Creator. The entity who seeks the one Creator is with infinite intelligence. From this seeking, from this offering, a great multiplicity of opportunities will evolve depending upon the mind, body, spirit complexes, distortions with regard to the various illusory aspects or energy centers of the various complexes of your illusion. Thus, some become healers, some workers, some teachers, and so forth. So, what we have is the first part of the answer is what produces everything. There is but one service. There is only one service, and that is the offering of the self to the Creator. That is the greatest service. So let's break this down, because this is, in essence, what takes the full scope of the answer. After that, they simply explain the entity who seeks the one Creator is with infinite intelligence, and that means that you're tapping into intelligent infinity from this seeking or this offering. Then a lot of opportunities will arise, and I'll get to that. But first, how is it that you can offer yourself to the Creator? Well, first we need to define what is the self that they are talking about here. We know that there is only one self, but in Law of One vocabulary, they refer to this one self as the one infinite Creator. And thus the self, they use a term that is, again, it can be confusing if you're studying, for example, Hinduism or Buddhism, where there is a self or there is no self. But just to put it into context, the vocabulary of the Law of One, again, is referring to the self as the individualized self. It's a very important point. Okay, and I'll stress it again. When they speak about the self and other selves, they're talking about the individualized portion of the one infinite creator as me, as you, as others. Okay, so if you know that, then we know that the individualized self is the one that offers itself to the creator. There is an individual, and then there is the one infinite creator. The one infinite creator cannot express itself unless it individualizes within its own self as an apparent entity, as a being. Okay, so there is an ocean and there are waves. And the ocean manifests as waves or currents. You see, it's movement that creates the appearance of things. And so with that in mind, we can extrapolate to our experience that the individualized self that I am is the one infinite creator expressing itself. But there is a rascal here in the game that is called the ego, or the separate self, which is nothing else but a belief. It's a strong belief, nonetheless a belief. This is going to contract the expression of the one infinite creator. It never takes it away. It never fully darkens it or hides it. It just contracts it. It limits it. And so when we offer ourselves is about the offer is the inward path in which this individualized self doesn't see itself as independent from reality. You see, that's the ego. That's the negative path in the law of one. You go inwards. And inwards means you shed all these layers of identities. You constantly do it. This is a process that can take a second, a lifetime, 100 lifetimes. We don't know. We just know that it is a process. And the more we shed these layers, then the more that one infinite creator can express itself. So you see, that is the only service that exists. Unless we're talking about the negative path, which I won't get down to. That would be a limited, but still a service that is provided to the one infinite creator as an individualized portion beyond this density. But again, that is the offering, is the inward path. Out of this inward path, as you recognize who you truly are, then devotion, which is really what this offering is. It's a devotion of the individualized portion to that which is unknown, to the self, to that which you are. So it's not like you're offering yourself to a separate being, God, who is like a monarch. That's the prevailing idea that we have of God because of Western ideologies, that God is sitting on a throne and is watching us. That's no longer the view. The perspective here is that there is one infinite creator expressing itself through me, and it looks at the universe this way. So this is the invitation to the inward path, devotion, or even the word that is used in Christianity, sacrifice, to sacrifice, or as Jesus said, to deny yourself. Deny, sacrifice, all of this refers to that. Now the inward path is going to make you get in touch with reality. Reality is yourself, is the unknown, is consciousness, is bliss, Sat Chitananda. So the entity who seeks the one creator, right, inwardly, is with infinite intelligence or intelligent infinity. It touches. And by touching that, Ra in another session talks about this, service becomes automatic at this point. Now, the rest of the paragraph, which takes the most out of it, is explaining how out of this touching, of this contact with intelligent infinity, the creator, God, divinity, etc., out of this contact, a great multiplicity of opportunities will evolve. So you will see the all the cards being displayed in front of you, so to speak. You won't see this, but life will start providing these opportunities for you to What do you want to do? And of course, you are the one who, with your heart, decides what it wants to do. And that's basically all they said. Depending on the complexes, the mind, body, spirit's complexes, distortions with regard to various illusory aspects. So the tendencies that you have, this is what we call understanding your nature, so you can be who you were meant to be here. You have an inertia. Maybe you're here to help people directly, or to entertain them, or to cook for them, or to amaze them with your beautiful art, or with the way you express yourself. Or maybe you came here to be a father of family, or a mother. Whatever it is that life has given you, that's what you are here to do. But you need to discover this within yourself and get in touch with that. Don't just grab something that came out of the horoscope. And so some become healers, workers, teachers, and so forth. All of the things that we are. You see? So what is the invitation here? The only service, you see, whatever you do is a side effect of the greatest service, which is you. So don't even worry about what's going to happen, what opportunities I'm going to get. I don't see any opportunities, Gabe. What am I going to do? The greatest service is the offering of self to the Creator. So let me emphasize this, because we get very much impressed, dazzled by the colorful opportunities of the character that I can be, and so on. We start, the spiritual ego would start to identify with those opportunities and say, oh, I am a teacher, I am a painter, I am this, I am that. Those are not the greatest service. Those are side effects of allowing the self to express what it wants to do. But you are not that. You're not the expression. You are always the one infinite creator. So the greatest service that you can provide, as it says here, is self to the Creator constantly. So what does this mean? Know yourself, then abide in yourself. Whatever comes out, well, that's a side effect. And you know that it's fine because it feels amazing. And you want to feel amazing. Everybody in the world wants to feel amazing. That's their purpose, to feel happy. In fact, let me just reduce it to its simplest form. Everybody on earth wants to be happy. That's all they want. Whatever the medium is that they use, activities, relationships, consumption of some substances, practices, whatever it is that people do, it's because they want to be happy. So, getting in touch with yourself, you know that you are joy itself, happiness, and then the expression of that joy is what you call an external service. Now, you may be saying, Gabe, you are making all this up, because it says there that you have to go inside, or offering yourself to the Creator, and then find your purpose, and with that work endlessly, right? Well, let's read what Ramana Maharshi said here. And I'm sorry that I don't have this on my screen. I need to become a little bit more tech savvy with this. But this is an extract from Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. It's a book, and it's a question and answer, just like Ra, and like many of these mystical teachers. The question, and I'm going to read several of them, because they're all interconnected. Question is, they say that there are many saints in Tibet who remain in solitude and are still very helpful to the world. How can it be? You see, the questioner is saying, how are they being of service if they're not in contact with anybody? Maharshi says, it can be so. Realization of the self is the greatest help that can be rendered to humanity. Therefore, the saints are said to be helpful, though they remain in forests. But it should not be forgotten that solitude is not in forests only. It can be had even in towns, in the thick of worldly occupations. That's us. That silence, that solitude is within you. It's actually you. That's the Creator. Getting in touch with the Creator. So that's it. With this, we don't have to read anything else. But I want to keep reading what the the confused questionnaire, is asking. And it says, it is not necessary that the saints should mix with people and be helpful to them. Maharshi doesn't even say anything about becoming healers or teachers or anything. He says, the self alone is reality. Remember that self here refers to the one infinite creator, not to the individualized self. The self alone is the reality. The world and the rest of it are not. The realized being does not need or does not see the world as different from himself. Then the question follows, thus then, the saint's realization leads to the uplift of humanity without the latter being aware of it. It is so, meaning that the world is benefiting from these awakened beings, and they don't even know it. And Maharshi says, yes, the help is imperceptible, but is still there. A saint helps the whole of humanity, unknown to the latter. Question follows, would it not be better if he mixed with others? So, in solitude, do you do the same service as if you were, Sadhguru, for example, who impacts millions of people around the world? And Maharshi says, there are no others to mix with. The self is the one and only reality. Then, the last question that I'll say here is, if there be 100 self-realized men, will it not be to the greater benefit of the world? You see how the questioner is thinking about numbers and people and more awakened beings. And Maharshi says, when you say self, you refer to the unlimited, but that is the one infinite creator. But when you add men to it, men, M-E-N, you limit the meaning. There is only one infinite self. Curiously, very similar to, there is only one infinite creator, one infinite self. That is the self. So, you see, this is the full realization that your purpose is to continuously dedicate this individualized self to the Creator. To get lost in the activities that we do only delays more and confuses that little voice that is inside that wants to express itself. That little voice is then nourished and nurtured by silence, by offering the individualized self to the one self, which is the Creator. Shameless plug, if you're interested, of course, in self-realization and the inner path, meditation, dissolving of the ego, and of course the healing or deconditioning of the mind. Sometimes we call it reprogramming the mind or the subconscious mind. That's what I do. Head over to Instagram, which you can find in the description, the link, and send me a private message there, a direct message, and we can get talking about the things that we can do together. That's it. I'm promoting myself, nobody else, my own service, which is helping you realize and make contact with intelligent infinity so you can actually change and transform your life. I've been doing it already for a couple of years. I love it. This is my devotion to life. If you want to know more, go there, send me a direct message, and we'll see what we can do together. I have nothing else to share, but just invite you to that silence. We need it. It's beautiful. Have a good day, good night, whatever you are. And I'll see you in the next video.